road opening agreements equal to.
I think we're still doing some research on this, I think if we can just, I think there's some issues. You gave me some information tonight, I think TJ will talk tomorrow, and then we can give you more direction, because I know there's some concerns, I guess. Correct?
That's my understanding, yeah.
What information was that?
Well- Go ahead.
No, you can say, you can talk.
I'm just curious.
Well, there's a question concerning the potable water, the frac water going into Township Road.
Under their conditional use hearing.
Right, so there's issues concerned, because Michelle provided me some information today about transcripts and so forth, and also concerning the conditional use hearing, so I've got to take a look.
I was gonna put a copy in everybody's mailbox,
Okay.
but
That's fine.
yeah, it's just their, conditional use
So
hearing.
we're gonna table this, is that what you're saying?
Yes, because Michelle just gave me some information tonight, I guess a transcript.
Okay.
Plus there's a conditional use hearing, so,
So in the next week or so, we can get the information that you guys have?
correct.
Yeah, I didn't know if it meant anything, which is why I
No, that's fine.
gave it
And I haven't
to
had a
you.
chance to take a look at it. But yes, TJ.
I just wanted to say, since I know there's a couple folks from EQT here tonight, Dennis, you and I spoke last week about the applicability of a grading permit.
Correct.
And given the fact that it's a, linear utility line project where it's essentially gonna be opening the trench and immediately closing it right back up, I think Dennis and I share the opinion that a grading permit would likely not be applicable for that
Correct.
kind of a project unless there's some portions of the project where you have very steep changes in grade that would require you to build an access road or something like that to, substantially change the landscape. So we did discuss that as a group, and that was a conclusion that we came to, so I wanted to pass that along to you folks since you're here. And then the other thing I wanted to point out, we have received a number of road opening permits and driveway permits in 2 different rounds. Jessica Yak submitted the first wave of them a little while ago, and we've reviewed those.
What's Jessica's last, is your last name Shrum?
No, yeah,
Shrum?
yeah,
Yeah, okay, there's I'm dealing with something about holding tanks.
that's on the upstream side.
Well, there's holding tanks, and someone applied from EQT for holding tanks, and I understand your
I'm
firm
gonna say holding tanks for sewage,
for holding
not
tanks.
holding tanks for other stuff,
Right.
but holding
So
tanks.
I saw something, the attorney that represents you sent me saying about holding tanks, but then I spoke to R.C. Cassidy, and someone applied for holding tanks with Washington County Sewage Council from your firm. So I'm sort of confused. First of all, I'm confused as to why, according to what I understand, a fee was paid to Washington County Sewage Council, because I got the I think I sent you a copy of that.
I did get a copy of that, yeah.
And I'm sort of confused as to why that's being applied for when, first of all, I'm sort of confused as to why that's being handled by them and not through us, but when we have, in Washington County, whenever you have holding tanks, you have to make an application, and I don't know whether the firm that represents you understands it, but you have to make an application for a holding tank with somebody, and usually that comes to us, and we have, our SEO is the Sewage Council. I mean, are you familiar with this? I guess someone must be familiar with them, but they go through that process.
It wasn't their conditional use that they would come to the township.
That's another reason why I have to look at that, but again, I guess there's already an agreement between the Sewage Council and your EQT for your sites.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I only know like the periphery of that because.
Because I'm confused, your attorney's saying that they don't have to get a holding tank agreement. I'm thinking, whenever you deal with holding tanks, there has to be a holding tank
They
agreement.
said that Washington County Storage Council was holding an escrow and they did the agreement with them, but we just don't understand why that would have been.
But
It's
it won't,
so confusing.
well, it's confusing
Well-
because they're telling me that they don't need a holding tank agreement with us or with anybody.
Too many players, what?
I don't know what's good, because then I call our,
Everybody else has to get, Washington County Storage Council is the inspector, we're the holding tank agreement people. We
Right.
don't, that's what we're saying, we don't understand why they would say they did the agreement with them.
So,
I
does
don't know.
EQT need to get their act together, or
Well,
is
in
it
their
on our
conditional,
side?
in their conditional use, it says that they will come to the township and enter
Okay.
into a holding tank agreement.
is that the findings of fact?
That's the findings of fact. So it says that they will come to the township,
See now, because it's so,
Holding tank with the township, in compliance with township ordinance chapter 2.1 stores, article 5, holding tank with the township, a copy of said agreement must be provided to the township prior to the operations beginning.
yeah, it was,
EQT must maintain an escrow for the pumping contract permit and agreement.
see, I was so confused because I didn't know that holding tank agreements were already reached with the sewage council and not with us.
But Michelle's correct when she said they have to go through us, right?
That's what it says
And
there.
why would the storage council tell them otherwise? That's what I just don't understand.
I found out, I think today's Wednesday, I found out Monday, because I called RC Cassidy, and I think I sent information to TJ about it. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on, because it doesn't,
You can't even blame
Everybody
them.
else, like if Larry Spear needed to get a holding tank agreement, he'd have to come to us. Like,
Exactly.
it shouldn't be any different for any,
and
it's
you have to have an escrow or bond, and the purpose of the bond is in case they
Right.
refuse, and not saying they
for
won't,
enforcement.
to make sure that they clean the tank or empty the
Right.
tank.
I have an additional question. This information we're gonna get next few days, next week, whatever, is it gonna show what township roads are gonna cut?
Yeah, EQT's given us a couple exhibits now that show sort of the
Not those
overall.
glorified blow-up pictures we had at the initial meeting, more detail?
Well, I don't know if they have anything that's more detailed than that, but I was referencing the overview drawing that shows the full extent of the
Or wouldn't
project.
they know by this time the routing of that particular piece of the piping that's going in the ground?
Yeah, it's my understanding that the routing's pretty well figured out.
They already had some, as I understand what you said, they've already secured some easements, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I'll let them speak to that, but yeah, I believe that's
So
right.
would you
Larry.
have the routing for the whole system at this point? You're gonna start in March, if I remember the meeting we had a month ago, 2 months ago?
Yes, so it
That's
is
right around
routed,
the bend in the
Yeah.
construction industry.
you are correct, it is routed, and the overview is kind of just the bigger picture, but each of the applications for the road crossings have an exhibit attached with them showing the exact location and the profile of the road.
The duration of the job's like 10 months, if I remember correctly.
I'd have to look at what they gave us, I don't remember off the top of my head there.
Because, you know, we have to go into this paving system or sequence.
Mhm.
It would be nice to know specifically, maybe good locations where they're cutting our roads.
Yeah.
And maybe that doesn't go on a list this year or whatever. I'm not suggesting anything, but it's just information we don't seem to have.
See, this is where, again, I just got this stuff started to come out back in mid-November, and I'm looking at this findings of fact, they're supposed to provide us copies of any agreements with the sewage council, this is paragraph number 13,
Okay.
and I didn't know about this till I talked to RC
So
Cassidy.
if they did enter into agreement with them, they should have provided that to us.
We
I
didn't,
agree, Michelle. I think we're 100% in.
And then-
We're allowed to require about this.
and this is paragraph 13, I'm looking at conditional use, which was issued back on October 14th, 2020. Then it says that they'll truck out the reuse water.
It says the reused water is gonna be trucked out, that the temporary water lines would be for fresh water only. And
That's
that
what
they
it
would
says
be
here.
trucking out the,
What size piping are they using?
you'd have to ask them, I don't know.
What size piping are you using?
For the water line specifically?
Yeah.
I thought it was 12 and 18 inch.
Yeah, and there's like 12 and 18 on this one. I think all of the water is 18, and then a 12-inch fresh water, yeah, so.
Yeah, that's on the drawings. Sure, I understand.
And again, this is paragraph
Change.
23, which Michelle just highlighted today, it says, shall enter into an inspection maintenance agreement in compliance with township ordinance 211 and so forth. A holding tank for township, a copy of said agreement must be provided to the township prior to the operations beginning. So this was never, so I'm seeing agreements with RC Cass and Sewage Council, but why weren't these provided to us ahead of time?
Who made that?
This is findings of fact, so this is the transcript, and that's like the conclusions of law, like,
You have a copy of this?
I do not.
Yeah, so that was, I'll be honest, both of us are previously Equitrans employees, and this was all when we were separate companies, and that was done under EQT with totally different folks that are not here
What's the
tonight.
date on that?
I
That one's
know,
2020, each one of the wells had a different date all the way into 2020.
I can reach out to the folks that are handling the upstream side of things, but while it's all under the EQT umbrella, there are different groups of people internally that are handling these.
No, but
those
saying,
items.
but I'm getting communications here from the law firm saying that they don't have to have holding tanks, and I'm like, I'm thinking we have, everyone has, to. You have a holding tank, you have to have an agreement. And I'm like trying to figure out what's going on, and then I talked to our sewage council, and someone already applied for these, and I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I can't speak to why they went to the county versus the township, but I know that's what we were trying to work through, is figuring out for the well pads specifically. The open cuts
Yeah.
are separate from those.
I understand that,
conditional
but
use.
again, the findings of fact says that you're supposed to truck the reuse water.
And again, I'm not arguing that fact, I wasn't here when those conditional uses were gone through, I haven't read through the findings of facts for them, so I can't really speak to that right
And
now.
I wasn't here either back then, so you are on the same page.
And at this time, it says, will there be any connection of water systems between Mingo and all of the other well pads? You'll be going to work on, it says to be determined. So was never a plan for that.
Is that a loose end?
You get to lose.
Well, see, and again, and what I do, I have to make sure everything's done the right way, because I'm getting all these different information, and I have to put it together, because I'm being told, this, and this, but I've gotta analyze it. I just don't wanna do anything, for lack of a better word, that's half-assed,
Quite all right, appropriate. I agree, go ahead, Carl, speak up.
No, I think we need a special meeting for the board.
I think we have,
There's too many loose ends here.
and again, when I talked to R.C. Cassidy, I said, I want to talk about something about this, and all of a sudden he says about these agreements. I said, that's the first time I ever saw them.
Should he have been involved with this level of a conversation, Washington County?
Well, I don't know. See, sewage council is your sewage enforcement officer. They act as your SEO.
That post or before?
They've been doing that for years. They represent most.
No, but I mean, did they get involved with the enforcement after, or
I don't know.
well, the planning stage?
I have no idea. I tried calling RC. I called him Monday. I called him the other day to call me back, but he hasn't called me back yet. So
Okay.
I think we need to look at it more and just table it for the time being. I think there needs to be a meeting to figure out what's going on.
Larry, to answer your question, there's 5 roads that they're crossing, and I have the maps here, so I can get you copies of these to show exactly
And
where.
that's fine, I just think the whole thing is a little, I'm actually a pro seller shelf proponent, but there's just too much information floating around that we don't have the opportunity to sit down and discuss it. Make sure we have a good plan going forward.
The Eagle Club, Garvin, Patterson, and Cold Bluff Pumpkin Center are the 5.
All right, so why don't we do this? We'll figure out what we have. Maybe have a
That makes sense.
meeting during the day, meeting one time in the next couple of weeks, I guess. Executive session. It will involve possible litigation.
I also noticed that they put one of the temporary walls around that facility out there. for the last
Sound
time.
wall.
Yeah,
Um,
I was just curious.
We're waiting for January 20th.